Well, what's up, my millionaires in training? Welcome back to another episode of the Do.Different.Better Show, where we talk about wealth, wisdom, and money moves, making finance simple for everyday people. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, CEO and founder of Social Impact Now and Connect Up Institute, and managing director of the Integrated Capital Fund. So great to be back with you. I am here to give you real talk, no fluff, so you can start making your money work smarter and not harder. So, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is all for my side hustlers out there. This is probably going to be my favorite episode, and this episode is going to be airing on my birthday. So, super excited. Those of you who are grinding nights and weekends, running businesses from your laptop, your kitchen table, or even between shifts from your 9 to 5 job, you're out there making it happen. But let's be real, it's time to start thinking long term. You don't just want to be a side hustle, or maybe you do, but this is for folks who don't. Now we want to turn this into full-time wealth building, legacy building business. That's what we're going to dive into today. And the first step is really about laying a foundation so that you can scale it sustainably. Now, here's a fun fact. Did you know that nearly 40% of Americans have some kind of side hustle, yet only 15% turn it into a full-time business? We're here to talk about the 15% Success Club. So I want you to grab your notebook because today we're going to get into the real work of transforming your side hustle into a thriving full-time business. So let's go. So the first thing that we really got to do, and this sometimes is the part that is probably skipped over the most when I work with entrepreneurs in our accelerator at Connect Up Institute, or even when I'm out and about, I'm speaking at different events around the country. I cannot tell you how often enough people do not start with the fundamentals. We talk about people maybe who have natural ability in sports and they get to a certain level and then they've got to go back to the fundamentals because they never learn them. Well, we're going to be talking about those because at some point or another, you're going to have to answer some very basic questions that maybe just you were an accidental entrepreneur and you tripped into your current business, but there does come a time where you've got to think about the actual structure of the business because the structure of the business is what's going to tell you how it's going to grow. So the first thing is, what is the end game? I like to ask founders, what does success even look like? And why are you doing this? For what purpose? Is it, hey, I'm just trying to make some money to be able to pay off student loans? Or is it, no, I actually want to take this into a full-time business and leave it to my children? Those are very different businesses, even though the industry that the business is in might be the same. Both people may be creative graphic artists or content creators, but they have different end games. So what they put into it needs to be determined by what is the outcome that you're looking for. If you are looking to scale your business, you need to be clear about the business model that supports your long-term goals, whether that's, hey, I want to be a digital nomad and live in a different country every month, or maybe it's, I want to be able to take 3 months off throughout the year. Well, we can build a business around that, but we've got to be clear about what that is from the very start. Now we need to really think about what type of business are we building? Your side hustle most likely falls into one of three categories: freelancing or consulting, if you're a service provider, whether that's graphic design or coaching or social media management, copywriting, or website development. Your income is based on you selling your time and expertise, of which you have a finite amount of, right? There's only so many hours in the day that you can sell. Number two, product-based businesses. Maybe you sell handmade jewelry, print on demand apparel, digital downloads, or physical products through some kind of e-commerce. And third is a service-based business with passive income potential. This is where you take your skills and scale them, like turning your consulting into an online course or a membership program or selling templates or other resources. That is something that's become really common in the last, I'd say probably decade, particularly with the growth and pervasiveness of social media. But each one of these businesses requires a different strategy to grow. Freelancers might scale by hiring, while product-based businesses might focus on automation and fulfillment strategies. Next, we need to be thinking about your business structure and what does that look like. Now, let's talk about the legal and tax benefits. I know, this isn't the sexy part, but it's really essential if you want to get serious about your business. Here are the three main options. One is a sole proprietorship. This is the easiest and the cheapest to set up. So, what are some of the downsides? You and your business are legally the same, which means a personal liability if anything goes wrong. If you are operating at your home, you have employees at your home, or you have something delivered, and somebody, let's say, I live in the Midwest, and the my walk is icy. If somebody slips and falls, I am responsible just as if my business were at a commercial business site, right? So I can be sued personally if somebody gets hurt or if something gets damaged, or let's say a customer wants to sue me, they're going to sue me personally, right? Which means if I lose, I could lose my personal assets like my home, my car, or any other personal assets that I may have. The next tax structure or business structure is an LLC. You may have heard those letters bandied about. They mean limited liability company. And you can have in Minnesota, we can have a limited liability corporation. But the crux of this is it gives your personal assets some protection while keeping things simple tax-wise. It's a great option for most small businesses looking to separate their personal and their business finances, but also it gives you that extra layer of protection from not fully 100% protected, but it does give you some layer of protection. If somebody sues you, they're going to sue the company, and there is what's recognized in the courts is there's some protection to your personal assets because this is a business. Then finally, there is S-Corp, a tax election. It is not a separate business type, but this helps you reduce your self-employment taxes once you hit $50,000 in profit. So sometimes you may have heard, hey, my accountant said it's time for me to go from an LLC to an S-Corp. It's probably because you've hit that $50,000 or you're on track to hit that $50,000 in revenue, which means you are going to be taxed at a different bracket as a corporation than if you were taking it as personal income. Now, here's something you need to understand. That money now isn't money for you to go ahead and spend. That could trip an audit. So what you want to do is what you might want to roll a lot of the business expenses like your car, maybe if you have an office space, all of those expenses will be paid out of the business, which also then lessens your tax burden personally from any salary that you may draw, or otherwise for the company because you're making those business expenses. So here's a pro tip. Even if you start off as a sole a proprietor, I highly recommend transitioning to an LLC as soon as you make a consistent income. It protects you legally and opens up more business credit options. Okay. So here's what I want you to do if you haven't already. I want you to decide on your business structure. So we're talking about, when I talk about business structure, I'm talking about your tax entity structure. These are all tax entity structures. You may have heard of maybe some other things such as like, well, Elaine, there's benefit corporations or B certification, B Corps, right? Those are not necessarily tax structures. A B Corp, if your state allows for what's called a benefit corporation, that is something that is another name for an S Corp. And what the only difference between an S Corp and a B Corp is that you are responsible and you are mission driven first before returns for your shareholders, right? As an S Corp, your primary goal and your primary concern is shareholders, and that is you, right? So, but as you may take on investors later on in your business growth and development, you have a responsibility to maximize profit to your shareholders. Whereas in a B Corp, you are, while you are responsible for returns to your shareholders, you are mission first. right? So there's things like Ben and Jerry's, they're a benefit corporation. Minnesota, Vermont, they both have those as an option within the C Corp structure, tax structure, but they are taxed the same. A benefit corporation and a C Corp or an S-Corp are taxed at the same rate. So once again, these are all tax structures, and we'll talk more about your business structure later. But a lot of these other things like social enterprise, mission-driven business, those are not entity structures. Those are just names like organic or 100% farm to, no pesticides. They're more of marketing nomenclature or names for people to kind of really understand what are the priorities in the business. But the first thing that you got to do, even if you've already filed your sole proprietorship or you filed your LLC, I'm hoping this conversation is going to give you a little bit more insight on thinking about and making a determination as to what is the business structure you need. Maybe at the top of this, at listening to this episode, you're like, oh, I'm a sole proprietor, but I think I want that extra protection and I'm going to file for an LLC. Typically, some states have a different price. When you go and register your business with your state, they will have a different price for a solopreneur than they do for an LLC. Or you may not have registered at all. That is very common with solo entrepreneurs or sole proprietors. They I shouldn't say they rarely. They may not have filed. However, once you go to an LLC, you definitely want to file with your state. And there's another reason for that. There are a lot of state programs that could be available to support you, whether your business is full-time or it's a side hustle, but they require you to be registered with your state so that they can know that you're actually a full-blown and legitimate business. But if you don't have an LLC, research your state's process to file for one. It's actually really easier than you think. Here in Minnesota, you literally go up on a website. It literally, I think, for an LLC, it costs $150. You do the whole thing online. But what you will need to do is you'll need to file, you need to add to your filing your articles of incorporation and your articles of agreement if you have a partnership. There are some templates that are out there. I think some of the states may even offer a template that you can use. You fill in your personal, your discrete information, you save that as a PDF and you upload it with your registered filing, right? So now we're going to get into the final part of this segment. Now that you've nailed down what kind of business you're building, let's talk money. If you're serious about making this your full-time gig, you need to treat your side hustle like a business and not a hobby. So the first thing is open up a business account. I cannot tell you how many businesses are like, oh, I have my business money and my other money commingled. This is non-negotiable. If you are still mixing your personal funds and your business funds, please, 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 please stop. Not only is this a bookkeeping nightmare, but it can create a legal and tax issue for you later. It might even put you, give you higher sensitivity to potentially be audited. So open up a separate bank account, run all of your business and your business expenses and your business revenue through that bank account. Why? Because you want to keep your business and your personal expenses separate. This makes tax season super, super easy. So, especially if you're looking at for your write-offs for your business. And it also helps you establish business credit so you can eventually secure funding later down the line as your business grows. So here's a pro tip. Open up a business checking account and a credit card if you're able, even if you're only making a few $100s a month. This will build some really good financial habits that will absolutely serve you in the long term. Step 2, start budgeting for your own growth. You cannot scale without reinvesting in the business. So every dollar should have a job, whether that's marketing, upgrading tools, hiring help, or increasing your inventory, or just once again, having a rainy day fund for the business. Some of you remember you weren't ready for COVID. Your small business wasn't ready for COVID. So having some money in reserve is also going to help you if there's another natural or man-made disaster. So here's here's one perspective of how you can think about allocating your revenue. 50% gets reinvested into some kind of infrastructure of the business, whether that's a customer relationship management system, it's a marketing, something for marketing, your inventory, or even your own education. 30% should go to taxes. Don't get caught slipping when the tax season comes. You want to be able to have that money ready to go because you're going to be taxed at a different rate than what you may be familiar with your personal taxes. And then 20% goes to your personal take-home pay until you can scale the business a little bit further. So once again, here's your pro tip. If you're not making at least 3 times what your 9 to 5 pays per month, you should still keep some side hustle funds in reserve to cover the slow months in your business. And then step 3, pricing for profitability. I always ask this when I go and speak, especially when I'm speaking in front of women groups. Are you charging the math? Are you charging enough? And here's some math that you can do to help you think about that. Your price should cover your time and your labor, particularly if you're a service-based business, your cost of goods or expenses if you sell a product, and your taxes and your profit margin. Because remember, you are here to build wealth, not just get by. Otherwise, what's the point? And your pricing formula, here's a pricing formula for service-based businesses. Take your monthly revenue goal, let's say it's $10,000, divided by billable hours per month. Let's say you have 80 billable hours in the month. That gives you a minimum hourly rate of $125 per hour, right? Here's a pricing formula for product-based businesses. Take your cost per product, meaning the materials, the production, etc., multiply that by 3 to 5x to include your profit margin and reinvestment, right? Never compete on price alone. Compete on value, expertise, and branding, right? So making sure that just because you are, don't just make a low price because you don't think that you're worthwhile. Your time has value. So make sure that you're charging for your value, right? So here's my action step to you. Run the numbers. If you haven't calculated your true pricing, set aside some time this week to do that. Okay. Now, my future side hustle millionaires, let's do a quick recap for you. All right. First thing, define your business model, whether it's freelance, product-based, or a scalable service. Next, choose your business tax structure, LLC, S-Corp, or sole proprietor. In some states, you may not have a choice whether you're a sole proprietor or an LLC. Next, set up your business account that's separate from your personal finances. Then make a budget for reinvesting and ensure your pricing is covering your costs and your profit. So if you haven't already, set up your bank account this week, take 30 minutes to review your pricing and adjust it accordingly, and download my Side Hustle Success Kit for resources to help you get legit fast. So that's it for right now. Come back and join me in segment 2, where we're going to dive into marketing and scaling for your client base. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review, and share this with another side hustler who needs to up their game. I will see you after the break. What's up, my future moguls? Welcome back to the Do.Different.Better Show. If you're just tuning in, we're diving in deep into how to scale your side hustle with a full-time job that is built to build your wealth. In the first segment, we covered how to set up your business, your side hustle legally, financially, and what would be the foundation for long-term growth. But now it's time to talk about getting paid. Because no matter how great your business is, if nobody knows about it, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that 42% of businesses fail because there's no market need for their product? That's why today we're going to get into how to market your business, attract the right customers, and set yourself up for long-term success. So let's get into it. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, have talked about marketing and social media. We're going to get into some of that, right? But here's the number one mistake that I see new entrepreneurs make. They think if I build it, they will come. I like this. Everybody else is going to like this. Listen, just because you have a great product or service doesn't mean that other people will automatically find you and buy it from you. And doesn't mean that they'll automatically like it just because you and your friends like it. That's where marketing comes in, and particularly marketing research. Okay. I know research, you're like, I don't want to go back to school, but it is super important. It is super important and can allow you to not make some really costly mistakes if you do your research correctly, right? You maybe have heard the old adage, measure twice, cut once. This is the same kind of thing. If you do some research up front, it could save you hundreds, if not thousands of money and actually get you to some really good revenue relatively quickly. So a little bit of investment on doing a little bit of research is actually going to go a very long way. So the first step though is like identifying who your customer is. Ask yourself these questions. Who is my target audience? How old are they? What is their gender? What's their income? Where do they live? What are their interests? Where do they shop? Where do they spend their time? Do they spend it on Instagram? Do they spend it on TikTok? Do they spend it on LinkedIn? Are they on YouTube? What problems are they trying to solve? Not you. What are they trying to solve? And how does your product or service make their life better? So here's an example. If you're selling luxury skincare products, your audience is likely on Instagram and Pinterest, and they care about the ingredients, self-care, and beauty trends. If you're a business consultant, your audience might be entrepreneurs on LinkedIn or YouTube looking for some very strategic advice. Step 2, build a strong online presence. Here's the deal. If you're not online, you do not exist, right? Having a website, at the very least, have a simple website or landing page about your services, some of the pricing and contact information at the very, very least. If you have the ability to be on social media, choose one or two platforms where your customers are. And this is the key part, where your customers are. I remember I learned when I was working in the philanthropic sector, if my audience was nonprofit organizations. So once again, being on Instagram may not make sense because that's not where they're looking for somebody who's providing the services that I was providing for the organization I work for. But the other thing is to post consistently. And when I say post consistently, I'm not talking about every day. If you're only posting once a week, that's fine. Make it consistently once a week so that people can be looking for that content. You have to remember there is a cycle. It's called like, know, trust. They might like you, but they want to get to know you. And so through your social media or through your website, those might be mechanisms that they use to be able to get to know you. And then the knowing you gets to trusting you. And then that's when they make the decision to buy. So, here's one thing, social media is great, but your email list is where the real money lies. Start collecting emails now so you have a direct access to your audience, meaning that's where you put that contact page on your website. Maybe you have a link tree on your social media. Maybe you offer a free one pager, but you want to start collecting emails so that you can start directly contacting them about the products or services that you have available. And if there's any discounts or news or information, or maybe you're putting on an event, or maybe you're going to be speaking at an event, it gives you a direct line of communication to those folks to have them like, know, and trust you. So there's great tools out there that have a wide range of tools that you can use. There's ConvertKit, there's MailChimp, and you can even set them up to do automated emails. They have SMS text services. They also you can build a one-page website on there. You can build some more complicated. You can have a store. These online platforms do such a great job. I remember when MailChimp came out years ago, all they did was a email delivery service. Now they've grown by offering so many different services. And they're not the only ones. There are lots of other services that are out there. Now let's talk about going beyond word of mouth. Maybe you are in your place of worship, people buy from you, but how do you get out of that, just that word of mouth? And don't get me wrong, word of mouth is wonderful. It's amazing. For me, for the first 5 years of my business, it was the primary source of business, but you can't rely on that alone. It eventually starts to run out. When you're starting out, most businesses rely on word of mouth, and that's great. But if you want to go full time, you need a system that brings in customers consistently. So, number one, start to leverage content marketing. Content is king. You need to provide value before asking for the sale. And here's how it works. You can do short form video like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Show the behind the scenes of, you can show the behind the scenes of how the product is made. You can do product demos. You can have your customers do product demos. You can do customer testimonials, and you can even schedule that. You can say, hey, I'm going to bring in my customers for a half a day. I'm going to buy them lunch. I'm going to video a whole bunch of stuff that then becomes content that I can use throughout the rest of the year. So once again, you want to start to think about being strategic about this, especially if you have a full-time job. You have a very minimal amount of hours that you can dedicate to this. So work smarter and not harder. Providing educational content is also an amazing thing. It's what you already know. And some people might think, well, if I tell them how to do it, then no one will hire me. You'd be surprised. People might start off with wanting to think that they can do it themselves, but realize either one, they don't have the time, they don't have the expertise, or they don't have the will. And so it's going to be better and quicker for them to hire you than for them to do it themselves. So don't think just because you put your process out there. Now, if you have something proprietary that you do, I would not put that out on your educational content, but you can walk people through like, hey, this is 5 steps. If you follow these 5 steps, you're going to get a little bit further along. But if you'd like to go deeper, you can hire me, right? So that's one way that you can do that. But you want to teach your audience something either by LinkedIn or blogs or by YouTube. You want to teach your audience something valuable to position yourself as an authority on that particular thing, right? Next, you can leverage storytelling. So that's great with Instagram and X and podcasting. Share your personal journey and connect with your audience, kind of like I'm doing here. So, for example, if you sell fitness coaching, post workout tips, success stories, meal prep hacks, or if you're a business coach, post case studies and quick business tips. Number 2, invest in paid advertising, but only when you're ready and you have the funds to do it. Once again, this is a science and you don't want to be throwing away money, good after bad, just because. You want to be thoughtful. And if the more clear you can be about who your customer is, and aligning your customer with your product or your service, then you can be able to choose how and where your ads are placed and make sure that they have the most bang for their buck or return on investment. So let's talk about, should you run them? Only if you have a proven offer that's already selling. So here's how you can start. There are Facebook and Instagram ads. These are great for e-commerce or service-based businesses and digital products. Then there's Google ads. These work well if people are actively searching for your service. Then there's TikTok and YouTube ads. These are great for just brand awareness and engagement. So here's my tip though. Start with a small daily budget. Maybe it's $5 a day or $10 a day to test different ads. You'll see in MailChimp, they'll even offer you what's called A/B testing, right? So you might test different things to be able to see which one of the ad creations that you've created actually work best, which one's getting you the most traction. But see what works best before you go and spend thousands of dollars. Really start small. And once again, I talked about in the first segment, building a budget. If your marketing budget is $100 for the month, right? So then you might want to go with $10 a day. 10 times 30 is $90. There's your advertising or marketing budget for the month, right? Then there's also number 3, you can think about partnerships and collaborations. One of the fastest ways to grow is by working with people who you already have an audience with or who already know you. I know for me, that has been a powerful resource. I've coupled my work onto somebody else, or I've offered it as an add-on to other partners that I've worked with, right? So I may not have all the things, but I will partner with a larger organization or with a larger organization who doesn't necessarily do what I do, or they don't have the capacity to do what I do. So I'm able to come in and partner with them to be able to provide my services to their client. It's great to collaborate with influencers within your industry or your niche. You can offer free products or services in exchange for a shout out. You can be a guest on podcasts, share your expertise with new audiences. You can maybe do affiliate marketing by rewarding people by bringing customers to you. We used to call that back in the day a spiff. So every time somebody would be referred to you, like let's say it's a photographer and a wedding cake person, they might give each other $50 every time somebody refers a customer to either one of them, right? So here's an example. If you sell natural hair products, team up with a popular natural hair YouTuber to feature your products. Okay. So now, if you really want freedom and you really want to grow and scale, you must build systems. And here are some ways to think about how to automate your business using scheduling and automation tools. There's some great time-saving tools like Calendly. This is how you can schedule your client calls automatically. There's a link on your website. Your clients can schedule their own time with you instead of you going back and forth with them. Like, are you available on Wednesday afternoon? I'm available on Tuesday morning. Are you available Thursday afternoon? Your calendar, your Calendly should be set up for a time that you are going to take calls. So I used to do this where I would say Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock is when I would schedule meeting new clients. Those were the only times. Now, if a client says, hey, none of these times work for me, then we might have to do the back and forth. But if I have 10 clients that use that calendar link and I have one client that I have to actually work to schedule in one of those off hours, think about how much time savings that would be if I instead had to schedule all 11 of those people. It's a really powerful tool. Then there's Zapier. This automate tasks between different apps. So let's say you want an email to go out every time somebody goes and gets onto your newsletter email list. You can have an automatic email that gets sent to them. And so a Zap can maybe make that connection between one platform and another platform to create some workflows across your platform. So you're not managing those tasks manually. Then there's Shopify and WooCommerce for automating sales and order processing. And those platforms do great with data analysis. They can tell you, hey, you're getting most of your sales on Wednesday afternoon. So that might tell you, you might need to run a sale on Tuesdays because Tuesdays is the day that you have the lowest amount of sales or the lowest amount of traction. So these are, once you start to systematize, you can get lots of information very, very quickly that actually help you grow the business, even while you're working in a full-time job. So once you're consistently making money, how can you make more without working more? This is where you can start to create digital products like ebooks, templates, courses. Maybe you start a membership or subscription service. There's lots of great platforms for that. Maybe you license your content or intellectual property. That's something that I've practiced. So I've gotten some content that I've created about helping people build culture within their organization. I don't want to necessarily build another consulting business around that particular topic. So I work with other businesses that do that work, and they license my content on my toolkits on an annual basis to be able to have access to it. And then that way I'm getting recurring revenue without me even having to do anything. All I may do is once a year go in and update that content, make sure it's meaningful and relevant based on the current external climate. And then I re-release it to them. And when they go to re-up their contract with me. But here's another concrete example. If you're a graphic designer, you can sell Canva templates. If you're a career coach, you can offer a monthly membership for job speakers where you say, hey, every Saturday between 9 and 11:30, I'm going to do open office hours and you can ask me anything. As opposed to them coming to you and getting maybe your hourly rate, a whole group of people can get the benefit of your expertise by being a membership and being able to attend this Ask Me Anything office hours. So here's what I would say. Start with one passive income stream and then scale from there. So here are some final takeaways for my future side hustle millionaires. Let's recap what we've covered. So one, I need you to know your audience and your market for your business so that you can really know who they are and where they are and how to reach them. Two, use content marketing to attract customers without constantly selling. Next, leverage collaborations and partnerships to scale faster, and then automate your systems to free up your time for your business growth. And lastly, build passive income streams so that you can prevent burning out. So Here's what I want you to do. I want you to choose one marketing strategy to focus on this month. Maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's YouTube, whatever it is, pick one and start to really create a strategy around it. Set up an email list and start collecting subscribers. And then I want you to start tracking your most profitable marketing channels and double down on what works. In this last segment, we're going to break down how to fully transition from your side hustle to a full-time business without going broke in the process. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review and share this episode with another side hustler who needs to up their game. You're listening to Do Different Better. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, and I will see you after the break. What's up, my wealth builders? Welcome back to the Do Different Better Show. If you've been rocking with us so far, you know we've been talking about how to scale your side hustle into a full-time grown-up business. In the first segment, we covered legal, financial, and the structural foundation of what you need. And in the second segment, we talked about how to get more customers, build your brand, and scale with automation. But now it is time to make the big leap. Drum roll. How do you know when it's time to quit your 9-to-5 job? How do you replace your income so you're not necessarily stressing about all your bills? And most importantly, how do you transition smoothly without going broke or regretting the decision? These are all really big and important questions. And so I'm going to get into those right now. So the first thing is figuring out, knowing when you're ready to quit your job. And believe me, you don't have to. I had a friend of mine, she's like, I have no interest in quitting my job, but I do want this business to grow. So that is a whole different question. And so the $1 million question is, when should I leave my 9-to-5 and go all in on my business if that's what you decide to do? Most people often quit way too early, before they even have a financial cushion, before they have systems in place, or even a steady flow of revenue from their customers or sales. So here are 3 signs that you're ready to leave. And I'm going to hold you to these, okay? 1, your side hustle income covers at least 70 to 80% of your living expenses. If your business is generating consistent revenue, it's a good sign that you're ready to either start thinking about the transition and maybe possibly make that final leap. It doesn't have to be 100% yet, but if you can get to at least cover your rent, your utilities, your groceries, and your health insurance, you're on super, super solid ground, right? Number 2, you have 6 to 12 months of emergency savings. The first year of full-time entrepreneurship is really unpredictable. You might have some slow months, you might have some unexpected expenses, or it's the time that you've got to really scale and reinvest back into the business, which means you can't draw an income. Make sure you have at least 6 months, but ideally 12 months of savings before making the leap so you can weather any of those storms. At least better. Number 3, your business is growing faster than your 9-to-5 can handle. If you're turning down clients, struggling to keep up with the demand, or seeing a consistent growth month over month over month, and you'll be able to see that because your systems are going to tell you, it's a sign that your side hustle needs more of your time. So here's an example. Let's say you're making $4,000 a month at your full-time job, and your business is now pulling in $3,000 or more consistently for 6 months. That's a strong indicator you're ready for your transition, okay? But before quitting, calculate your monthly expenses and compare them to your side hustle income. If you need to, go listen to one of my episodes on budgeting. If you're not at 70%, make a plan to bridge the gap, or you're going to reduce your expenses, right? And I've done an episode on that too. So here's the reality check. Running a business means your income is going to fluctuate. Some months are going to be amazing, and others will be slower than you expect. One of the things that I've noticed in my consulting business is the summers are a lot slower, and I'd say July and December are a lot slower. So that's why you need a cushion. right? So what I have to do is I have to make up enough money in my revenue in the other months so that when July and December come, I am able to weather those storms of those revenue decreases. One of the things that I've done is, well, clearly that's when people are taking their holiday vacations or their summer vacations. So you know what I do? I go on vacation too. I close my business for the month of July and I close my business for the month of December, at least to the public. I'm usually still working. Maybe I'm working on improving some systems, but I also do go away for at least a week in each one of those months. That's my vacation time. It's scheduled in. All my staff know it. All my clients know it. And so I schedule my work around that. I tell my clients in April and May, we're closed in July. We are going to be making sure that all of your deliverables are done before the end of June so that we can go in, me and my staff can go into July, not worrying about any work product that has to be done. And there's usually always one client that we've got to work on, but one client's very different than having a full load. So that gives us an opportunity to take some breathing time. It gives us an opportunity to actually work on systems or processes that are failing in the business, but also it's a great time for us to take break, but also it's a great time for us to do some team building. So that's when we do that. But here's how you can protect yourself financially before you actually quit your job. So number one, keep your 9 to 5 until you have a strong revenue stream. If you can, keep your job while building your business so you have that steady income, reliable income. Work nights and weekends and early mornings until your side hustle is generating that steady revenue. Number two, pay off high interest debt. Okay. Before quitting, clear as much debt as possible, especially credit cards or loans. Obviously, if you've got a mortgage, that's not what I'm talking about. But those credit cards or loans with high interest, or if you have a car loan, see if you can pay that off before you have to quit your job. Before you decide to quit your job, the less you owe, the less stress you're going to have when you decide that you're going to go full time, right? Number three, set up a business cushion fund. So you've got your emergency fund, but you also want your business cushion fund. Open a separate bank account and save 3 to 6 months of business expenses in advance. This fund will cover things like marketing, software, and unexpected expenses that you don't want to dip into your personal savings. And if you do dip into your personal savings, account for that on your books that you've taken money from your personal savings and invested that into the business, right? One, that can be considered a tax deduction, but also you want to track that because if you decide to take on equity investors later in the business, and we talk about what that means in another episode, all of the investments that you've made in the businesses are accounted for, right? Because you want that number recorded. So here's an example. If your business costs $2,000 a month to run, meaning the website, the marketing, supplies, taxes, you should have at least have $6,000 to $12,000 in your business fund before quitting. And that's in addition to your emergency savings as well. So those are two different things. I just want to make sure I point that out. You've got your business cushion and your personal emergency cushion. So then I want you to do a financial plan. And this is important for you to write it down. You may want to put it on a whiteboard. You may want to put it on a piece of paper that is taped to someplace that you see regularly and often. What is your income target goal, right? And then what is your savings goal and what are your business expenses? You can do that. I recommend doing that on what does it look like month to month? It just makes it a more real number than just giving the total. That can be a little bit daunting and a little bit overwhelming, right? So once you set yourself up financially, it's time to transition smoothly so you don't feel like you're jumping off the cliff without a parachute. So here's how to make the leap without panicking. All right. So first, give yourself a test run. Take a week off of work and live life like a full-time entrepreneur, right? It's going to be able to give you how are you going to manage your time? It's going to help you figure out do I work better in the morning? Do I work better in the evening? Do I work better in doing emails in the morning? But work on your business 8 hours a day and track how much you earned in that day. If you're seeing growth, then perhaps you're on the right track. If you find that you're like, I don't even know how to manage my time, then it's definitely not the time to quit. So two, give yourself a graceful exit. If you have a good relationship with your boss, do not burn any bridges. Give a 2 to 4 week notice and offer to train your replacement. You never know when you might need a reference or a business connection later with that particular person or your company. Number two, plan for your health insurance and retirement. When you leave your job, you lose your company benefits, so plan ahead. Look into self-employed health insurance options like healthcare.gov, which is also called the Affordable Care Act, which is also called Obamacare, or private providers. Maybe you want to open up a SEP IRA or solo 401k to continue saving for retirement, or maybe an HSA, health savings account, right? A lot of entrepreneurs forget about taxes, insurance, and retirement and saving. So please, please, please do not let that be you. So here's the action step I want you to do. If you're planning to leave your job in the next 6 to 12 months, create a transition checklist that includes what's your health insurance plan, your retirement savings strategy, and your business budget for the first year, right? And there's lots of toolkits, and I can offer those to you to understand, to be able to help you put those things together. So here's some final takeaways and some next steps. All right, my future side hustle millionaires, let's recap what we've talked about today. So one, we've talked about know when you're ready to quit your, know when you're ready to quit. Your business should cover at least 70% of your expenses before leaving your job. Set up a financial safety net. Have 6 to 12 months of savings and 3 to 6 months of business expenses before taking the full-time leap. Next, transition smoothly. Test run your business. Exit your job gracefully and plan for insurance and retirement. Now, if you're ready to take the next step, don't forget to download my free Quit Your 9 to 5 Transition Checklist. Those are going to be in my bio or on my Instagram or on my YouTube channel, Do.Different.Better. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Please, please, please leave a review. Tell me what your side hustle is doing and how you're growing, and what issues are you challenged with. I'll be happy to talk about those on a YouTube episode. Share this episode with another entrepreneur who needs this info. So now that we've covered how to take your side hustle into a full-grown business and to become that multimillionaire, I am going to be so proud of you. You've gotten all the tools. I know you can do this. Until next time, I want you to just stay on track, be focused, and know that I am here to support you. You're listening to Do Different Better. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. I can't wait to see you next time when I show you how to do different better.